Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Reds Rundown podcast, hosted by two lifelong Reds fans and journalists. I'm Rob, and he's Joe, and we appreciate you taking the time to join us. Joe, I have a feeling I know how this answer is going to be, but how you doing today?
Is it football season yet? Because the Reds are showing only barely a pulse these days.
Yep.
I'll be watching all season long, no matter what. But it's becoming harder and harder to watch this team right now. So it is what it is. But at least it's nice outside. People can go outside and take a breather and take a load off if they don't want to watch the Reds right now, because they are pretty bad to watch.
Yeah, it's been miserable. I don't think I've ever been more watching on my ESPN app than the actual games because I've been so upset about it. If I'm being honest with you, it makes me very upset to see the way that they're swinging at, and it just feels like, we'll talk about it here in a little bit, but I'll tee this part of it up. Lodolo giving up a grand slam sucks, sure, but the fact that you're going to lose because of one swing of the bat and your offense is not going to find a way back in is not only bad for a pitcher like Lodolo, but it's bad for the team and everything else. I mean, it's just bad. It's just bad. So we'll get into it. We have a question of the day that I think everybody is going to either love or hate. We're going to find out here very, very quickly. Everyone wants David Bell's head. Do you think there are better options? That's my question, because I know that Joe is probably closer to the let's lop off the head. I am getting closer to it. My biggest thing is I want to know what the other options are, because I don't want to lose him and ruin the clubhouse completely if we don't have another option lined up. That's my only thing. And I swear, if you get in the comments section and say Barry Larkin, the only reason I may say yes to that is to get him out of the booth.
Wow. I definitely think there's better options out there. Because David Bell has never actually won anything. Like, we haven't made the playoffs, yeah. other than with the COVID year when everyone made the playoffs, right? So
yeah,
there's better options out there. It's hard to fire a guy less than a year after you give him a contract extension. We talked about how that was probably a mistake when they did. But yes, I think there's better options out there. I think you could make a case that David Bell is down there with the bottom tier managers in the league. And it would be pretty easy to do because, yes, there are some years where the Reds haven't had talent under him, but there's years where the Reds have had talent, like that 2020 COVID year where they underperformed. So, and then this year as well. So it's just one of those things where you're probably not going to make a change right now. In the next couple of weeks, if things get really bad and the Reds are just like, they fall to like 15 games below 500 in the next 2-3 weeks, then yeah, you make a change. But like, I think everyone's like kind of making excuses for everyone, and like, oh, David Bell doesn't have all the players he needs. There's guys hurt and suspended, or the front office is limited by the budget, and we all know the owners have their own issues, or the players don't have all the players aren't playing, or like all the players have these issues going on. At a certain point, like, we got to hold someone accountable. Hopefully the owner at the top is the most accountable, but like, it's got to keep on coming down. Nick Kroll, David Bell, players, we got to figure it out. So there's definitely better options. They've passed in the past on managers who I think are better than David Bell, at least more experience. And I don't know if he's proven enough that he is a even average manager at the MLB level yet. So we'll see.
Purely out of, not to call you out because you probably didn't prep this, is there a manager on your mind that you think is available or know is available that you would want?
Not on top of my mind, but I do remember we passed on Joe Girardi. We did
That's
not
who I
want
was
Joe
thinking
Girardi
of.
when he was available.
Well, he didn't want us, if you remember. He went to the Phillies.
Well, he had other options, and that, yeah, I think, he's one you could definitely go after. I know Yankees fans kind of soured on him, but he did, win a World Series with him and everything. So that was one I've thought about. And a lot of it's hard these days too. So the question is fair. I think there are better options just because David Bell hasn't proven to be good, but a lot of times teams are hiring like players who just retired, like to be, because they understand the analytics better and they can maybe be more player managers. But I wouldn't mind getting some old school guys in here maybe too. I think that'd be kind of fun. But maybe a guy like an old school guy who understands analytics a little bit. Well, he won a World Series. He won a World Series finally. So
he did.
Yeah, I don't have anyone on top of my head. I just think it might be a chance that David Bell's been here so long. It might be a chance to change up and find someone new. But again, I don't think you do this until the end of the season unless things even turn even more worse. So
Okay, cool. That's what I needed to know. But yeah, Girardi was the first one that popped to my mind. I don't think he's retired, so I believe he would be available. And honestly, maybe he could bring a New York type mentality, just being stonewall, maybe a little cold, but getting it all together. I wouldn't hate that. I wouldn't hate that at all. But yeah, if they like promote Freddie Benavides or bring in Barry Larkin, I think that would be a negative move, to be completely honest with you. It's not that I don't like Barry. I just don't want to see that. If they're going to make a change, I guess here's what I will say. If they're going to make a change, I want it to either be somebody proven, or like you said, I want it to be somebody like a Skip Schumacher or somebody like that who's young, really smart, has a good idea of the game. Like Stephen Vogt, right, with the Guardians right now, like something like that. I mean, hell, I'm trying to think who the Reds have had. Dude, Joey Votto. That's what you do. Player, manager. I'm kidding.
Well, here's the thing. I'm with you. I don't want to hire anyone in the organization. We're getting close to a point where it might be time to clean house of the front office people and manager. Players, obviously, we have a couple of young guys we're going to keep. We're not going to clean house on them. But it might be close to that point where we need something fresh, need something new. We have Jake Fraley's dad going off on Twitter for his son not playing. Like, it seems like this locker room culture is crumbling because of the losing. In a different way that we didn't think, because we thought last year was so fun and like there's some good locker room guys on the team. But there's like these signs of like, why if your dad's on Twitter tweeting about the manager not playing your son and he's in the major leagues, like that's pretty bad. It doesn't happen that often. So there definitely might be a chance to hopefully clean slates. I'm with you. I don't want Freddie Benavides. I don't want Barry Larkin. Optimally, we get a new owner who changes everything about the team. Besides the 3 or 4 players that we really like that are young, or 5, 6 players, I would say, with starting pitchers.
I was gonna say, let's get those starting pitchers in there.
That's not going to be. I don't think that's going to be realistic. So I will say, if the ownership stays, let's go find a manager who's new, different, from a different team, young. Old school would be fine too. Just someone who's not connected to the Reds.
Yeah, anybody else that can give us a change of culture, I think, in a positive way and really give us a better mindset. Well, that all leads into this week. It was another rough week for the Reds, going 1-5 in their 6 games. It's bad, guys. It's not good. Reds started off on their Tuesday game losing 6-2 to the Diamondbacks. Frankie Montas pitched honestly pretty well. 6 innings, 1 run. Justin Wilson comes in, gives up 4. Not much you can do with that one. The Reds offense started to find a little lick of something, but they were solo home runs from Jonathan India and Tyler Stevenson. Not really great. You go into the next game, and this starts a streak for me of 1-run losses that the Reds were winning last year, not winning this year. But the Reds had 3 1-run losses this week, including a 4-3 game on that Wednesday where Lucas Sims gave up the home run to Eugenio Suarez after Graham Ashcraft pitched a pretty good game, and the offense was finally showing some signs of life yet again from Jonathan India, Tyler Stevenson, and Jeimer Candelario was starting to come on, and we saw Friedel get his first hits in that game as well. The Thursday game, another 1-run loss. Fernando Cruz giving up the run, unfortunately, in that one. But even though Hunter Green, I haven't heard anything recently about this, but obviously his velocity was down. A lot of people were worried about that. He seemed to battle and get it done anyways. So was happy to see that from him, but just another big struggle outside of guys like Candelario. And then Ellie De La Cruz had a good game. They head to San Francisco, and they finally get off the schneid. They end their 7-game or 8-game losing streak to take down the Giants 4-2, thanks to things like an inside-the-park home run from Stuart Fairchild, which was super fun, and Andrew Abbott pitching absolutely lights out as he seems to do consistently, and Diaz nailing down the save. 5-1 loss after Lodolo gives up a grand slam in the first inning with 2 outs, unfortunately, to Matt Chapman. You knew the game was over there. The Reds did absolutely nothing Pretty big bummer because Lodolo also basically just shut them down for the rest of the game after that. So that sucks. Reds find a way to get a lead in the Sunday game, Joe. They give it up. They claw their way back. And then the combination of Emilio Pagan, who is driving me up an absolute wall, and Lucas Sims losing the game for the Reds, unfortunately, on a walk-off hit to a guy who I don't know if he had a hit yet in his career, or at least this season, if I remember correctly. It just was Mike Ford did hit a home run to tie the game. That was a positive note there, Joe. I really thought the game was over at that point, but he did that. The bigger news, and we'll get into the injury news here in a minute, Joe, but big injuries coming from this week as well. I don't really know what you want to do about these series, dude. They were just terrible. I mean, they just really were. A lot of really weird decisions. I will be completely honest with you, and I know you're not big on like blaming like certain guys, but I am really sick of seeing Emilio Pagan. It's either he comes in, he strikes out 2 or 3 and looks absolutely filthy, or he looks just horrible, and you know by the first batter if he's actually just gonna completely suck. So I don't get it. I'm really struggling with it. Brent Suter has also not looked great. Like the fact that Buck Farmer may end up being our second best reliever right now in the pen, even though he's lost velocity, and I was still pretty concerned about that. He's looked solid. Like they don't have Sam Mole for some reason, and Justin Wilson and Brent Suter are both struggling. I don't really get it, dude. I'm just kind of baffled with what's going on right now. It just feels like a complete cluster, and I'm not going to use the other word out of kindness.
Fair enough. Yeah, D-back series, I mentioned you have to limit the long ball. They had 4 home runs in that series, and with the way our offense is going, that's all it took. That's all it took. I will say, overall for the week, though, kind of what we expected with the way things were going.
Yes.
But this team only has starting pitching right now. There's no hitting. There's no defense. Jake Fraley had a really rough time in right field in San Francisco. I know the win's a factor there, but you're professional. You got to make some of those plays. It happens sometimes, but hopefully he bounces back. The bullpen is inconsistent at best. At its worst, it's not good. And that's why I think the philosophy to build the team needs to be obviously hitting and starting pitching. And then if you like the bullpen stinks, then like you can go get bullpen pitchers pretty cheaply at the deadline, like we did with Sam Moll last year. But also, bullpens are a fickle thing. Like 1 year they'll be good, especially when you don't have an elite guy. And we do not have an elite guy, the bullpen. 1 year you can have a bad bullpen, and the next year you can have the same players run them out there and they'll be good bullpen. It's just it's one of those things where you don't know what you're going to get unless you have one of the top guys in the sport, which the Reds just don't have. So I'm not blaming Pagan like you are in the same sense that I just think like the whole bullpen hasn't been that great. Like Lucas Sims has been pretty bad this year.
Yep.
We have some of our best bullpen pitchers in AAA right now, which includes Tony Santillan, who has a 2.64 ERA.
Yep.
Yeah, so this is a organizational failure. So I hate to put it on 1 or 2 people, but when you don't have your best players up at the major league level, when we don't. While we have scouted some good youngsters, right? Like we haven't made the most trades to add to this team. We haven't made the best signings to add to this team. We don't know whether Nick Krall is handcuffed by whatever budget. We don't know what his budget is. We don't know. There's a culture thing going on here. David Bell, we've had our criticisms of him. I think we've all given him a fair shot at this point. I don't know if he's in the best situation either, but like at some point something has to change because there's just if all you can do is have starting pitching, there's no hitting, there's no defense. Like I don't know what we're doing here. Like we're a bad defensive team or a bad hitting team. Like can we figure one of those out? Like can we get some players who are good at defense at least, so our starting pitchers have some more help, or offense more ideally was what I would do. But it's a bad time to be a Reds fan because it feels like the cycle is starting again. Right? We talked about it, I think, in one of our shows of just it seems like we get these young promising guys. And then either they don't live up to the hype or they do live up to the hype, but the team doesn't win as much as you would want, right? And then the ownership decides to sell off a lot of the pieces, then you're back to square one. And I feel like after last year where they outperformed things, I thought they would have gone more in, but it isn't happening. Like we have players who are better in AAA, not come up. We have guys on the roster who shouldn't be major league guys. We're not making, as we said in the offseason, like Frankie Montas, you know, fine signing, but not really like going all in. Same with Jamer, like not really going all in. So it's getting me back to the point of where I went from excited last year and even excited for this start of this year back to more frustration with the ownership and the organization and how things are being done. I'm hoping things turn around, and I do believe that there are some key pieces from this young team that can help us in the future. But it does like I think it's like one of those Cincinnati fan things, Rob. Like we're in the back of our head, we're just like, oh, it's going to be the same thing over and over again. So
Well, and
that's where I'm at.
yeah, I think that's what makes it really tough. Is it's like even me, like I'm making excuses for certain guys because I'm like I just need something to work, right? And it's just like in our mind we know how this plays out, right? Like they have to break the cycle. Something has to break in. I really felt like this is the team to do it, and I still have a lot of promise for a lot of these players. I'm still laying it partially at the feet of some of this coaching staff and the managerial staff. Like it's just mind-boggling to me. Go out and hit 1,000 freaking balls at these guys. Make them make plays. Teach them better footwork, right? Like, I mean, it's simple things that they're doing incorrectly. And that to me is, it's like, are they watching the game correctly? Are they really just only looking at the analysis and not using their actual eyes to see what is happening? Like, there are big issues. To be clear, I hate a lot of the bullpen right now. It's just Pagan always pisses me off because it's like I see him go out there and it feels like every time I'm actually watching the game instead of just seeing it on my phone, he just sucks and it drives me nuts. And I don't like his repertoire, to be honest with you too. But he calls his slider a cutter. Like, who does that? He's so hell-bent on it being a cutter that they even say that it's a cutter. It's not a cutter. Sorry. Ugh. That or it's the best freaking cutter in the world and he's still not using it correctly. My point is, there's just, like, the thing is I think we're going to be feeling differently once we get through this month. But sadly, it may be too late. I just think that there are teams that we are playing that are a lot better than us top to bottom right now. And that their records do not indicate how good or bad they actually are because they are also playing teams that are really good. I think that we are still probably a fringe playoff team, to be honest with you. I think our starting pitching is good enough, and I think our hitting will get better. That being said, it doesn't matter. Like, just making the playoffs is not good enough. It may be for this year. Fine, I will give you that. But if your long-term vision is not to win a World Series, then you need to find a way to get there. Right? That's the goal. I'm tired. I cannot express to you how much I hate a let's just try to make the playoffs mentality. Let's just see what happens if we get to the playoffs. No, it needs to be, we're going to make the playoffs and let's see if we win a World Series. Right? Because you don't know once you get into the playoffs, right? Like, I don't think anybody had the Diamondbacks making it all the way to the World Series. I know I certainly didn't. I thought that they were going to be ousted in the first round. They didn't. Great for them. They figured it out. But if it's like, oh man, let's just try to make the playoffs every year. Get that shit out of here. I'm done with it. I'm tired of it. That is not good enough. I want to win a freaking championship in my lifetime. And this team is not building itself the way to do that. And I have become more and more, I think, cynical of things like David Bell and everything since then. So watching these series, like, dude, they could have gone 3-3. They really could have. But they threw away 2 games in the Diamondbacks series, and they threw away that last game in the Giants series. And it's just sad that Lodolo has one bad pitch, and you know they're going to lose that second game in the Giants series. Like, it's like, what was so frustrating for me this week, Joe, specifically, and then we can move on, was it felt like these starting pitchers had no room for errors. None whatsoever. If your starting pitchers are giving up 2 to 3 runs a game, dude, you should win almost every single one of those starts. You should. That's why it's called a quality start. And they're just not doing it. And yeah, the fact that Tony Santillan isn't up here right now and he is like kind of cruising right now down in the minors is wild to me. And Sam Mole. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing right now? I don't really understand it, to be completely honest with you. It's a really frustrating thing to see that, because I hadn't checked Santillan's stats since what was like 2 weeks ago, maybe, when they were okay. Now it's just egregious at this point. Like, I don't really understand Let's look at some names here. Again, why are we keeping Pagan? I love Lucas Sims, but if he's just not getting it done, then maybe he needs to be gone. Right, like I think Lucas Sims and Justin Wilson right now are probably the easiest guys you could get rid of. I would prefer to keep Sims over Pagan because I think his stuff's better, but I guess statistically he's not been as good. I don't know. I don't really know what to do. I mean, we're running Pagan out there more than every other freaking reliever, and he's given up 4 home runs this season. I don't know. I don't really get it. It's just that's he's got the highest or second highest home run next to Sims. This is where we miss TJ Antone. I'll just say that. But
TJ Antone, and again, just not having the right players up. So
yeah,
again, this is why for me it's an organizational failure, and it's like one of those things where Rob, if you remember after the 2014 season, it was kind of like, hey, we're gonna kind of rebuild for a couple of years. And then kind of rebuilt for a couple of years, and finally got like to a team that I think people were satisfied with in 2020 with the COVID year. And then they tore it down after that, and you're thinking like, what's going to happen? So because I think it's an organizational failure, I will throw out something right now. The Twitter account Brooksgate tweeted out this morning or yesterday where teams rank in their respective leagues in winning percentage over the last 10 years. The Reds are 28th out of 30. The teams that they are connected to are the Knicks and the Bears, 2 long-suffering franchises. We know the Knicks are doing well in the playoffs right now in the NBA, if you follow that. Yep. And the Bears just got Caleb Williams, but they got Caleb Williams for a reason, because they're bad. That's over a 10-year period. Like, if one rebuild doesn't work in that 10-year period, maybe the second one does. We're on the cusp of being on our possible third if things don't get better. And that's where I think it's hard to blame one specific area. Like we talked last week, like, yeah, at some point it is the hitters, like I mentioned, and we have to figure out if they're actually going to be good. At some point, in some points it is the coaching. At some points, it is the manager. At some points it is the front office. And whether they're handcuffed by the ownership or not, you got to figure it out. Just like, the Rays do every year. That's something to figure out. So that's why I'm kind of in this space of like, I got my hopes up again, and I'm mad at myself for getting my hopes up again. There is some hope with the young guys figuring it out and getting better, but we needed to start the year off and stay at around 500. And with the way things have gone, with the games we have played, with the injuries that have happened, and with the upcoming schedule, it feels like things could be over before we even get to a point where our roster gets full. So that's what's frustrating about it. So I'm with you. There's specific players we could talk about, but what's going to take to spark this team to play their best baseball this year? I don't know. I mean, we have to go to KFC and sacrifice a live chicken, like they do in Major League. I don't know. Maybe we do. But I think that's the most frustrating part is there is some talent on this team. They're just not winning games. And I don't think that this team has been set up very well by the manager, coaches, and the front office. But I just don't know I don't know what's the change we make here. Do we fire David Bell after the year? At the deadline, do we start trading these bullpen pieces that have no value because they haven't been pitching well? Do we trade off some of our hitters that aren't like our 3 or 4 best protected hitters on the league team? And then next year we're like, hey, we're going to try to rebuild again. Is that what we're doing here? Because it feels like we're going down that path, and I can't anymore with this team. I can't do that every single time there's like one little bit of adversity.
Yeah, we finally get like one decent year. It's like, no, figure it out. Like fight through it, right? Yeah, I get it.
yeah.
And I guess that'll move in. We were going to talk about this here in a second. Do you think that this is just like a doomed, cursed season? Because TJ Friedel got hit in the hand. I think he broke his thumb, which is pretty unbelievable and just crazy bad luck for him. Then you have CES. His thumb also got hit. Like, can we wear a thumb guard, guys? Like something, please? Like, I don't know. Like, it just feels like we're cursed right now. Maybe we do need a live chicken sacrifice. We're sorry. We're not actually going to do that, probably.
We're going to get a bucket of chicken from KFC. We're going to full bucket of chicken. We'll eat the chicken. PETA still won't like that, but at least we won't be killing chickens ourselves.
That's true. That's right. There you go, PETA. You're welcome. There's a chance Matt McClain is returning in August. They keep pushing that right now. I feel like they're trying to keep people hopeful because it just doesn't feel good. I feel like truly this is just kind of a cursed season right now. That's how it feels to me. I think it's just it's like everybody's going through their sophomore slump at the same time. That does happen. That is very much a real thing in baseball, especially. You had a bunch of young guys have a good season last year. They're having to learn to adapt. I will say this, Joe, and maybe it's because I'm ever the optimist. I do think a lot of them are going to figure it out. The problem is I don't know if it's going to be too late. It may not be. I mean, where were we last year at this point? I'm going to look that up really quickly while you give us your thoughts.
We were 2 days ago, 2 games ago, we were tied for the same start as last year.
Okay.
So we're two. I guess we're like 2 games under or 1 game under what we would have been last year.
I think we were 1 game. Yeah.
To your point, are we doomed or cursed? It does feel like that a little bit. But I think also there's a morale issue, I think, here too, right? So like
yes,
last year we had so much momentum, and we had all these fun young guys, and for whatever reason, some of the guys who were on the team have struggled. Not all of them are there. We have Marte's, suspended. We have McLean, who's hurt. We have Friedel, who was hurt to start the year. Now, like you said, the X-rays were inconclusive, so they're trying to figure out what's going on with his thumb. But it seems like he might be out for a while.
Yep.
We in the offseason, players always, if you read like the player biographies like I do, I'm currently reading Sandy Koufax, they always talk about if you make a trade at the deadline or a great off-season acquisition, it just like it lifts the spirits. It's like, yes, we're going for this. We're going to do this.
Yep.
And I think there was still some hype over the offseason going into this year, but we started losing some games. We didn't have that big acquisition kind of tide us over for the tough times, but also like the morale of just like, I always say if you're at the deadline, go make a move for anyone, just because it does it tells the team that you believe in them. And sometimes they get deflated if you don't get someone at the deadline to help out. That's what's going to go on. So doomed and cursed, yes, because of the injuries and suspensions and everything. But at the same time, I just feel like there is a huge morale issue. And sometimes, Rob, I think you can relate to this too. Is like David Bell being a player's manager and like always being like the rah guy. You can't always be the rah guy. Sometimes you need to light a fire under people and try to get them going. So I think whatever it is, they need to change that up as well. Give the players some more confidence, boost their morale. So it's like a little bit of both doomed and cursed, but also I just don't think the morale is as good as it was last year when we had all these fun players coming up and Ellie was hitting for the cycle and we were all going nuts. And yes, we just started off the year poorly, but like we also had players on the team last year who weren't very good, and we were able to bring other guys up. We don't have guys to bring up. We don't have the same number of people to bring up as we did, or even the quality players to bring up as we did last year. So it's a tough situation to be in with how it's gone. And I feel like Reds hitters get hit by pitches more than just about anyone in the league.
Ridiculous.
Just like Shin-Soo Choo 10 years ago. It's been 10 years since he's been on the team, which is crazy.
Wild.
Always got hit by pitches too. We were leading the league in that, it feels like, but it's tough.
Well, I will see if I can find that. There's one name on a team that I think could actually provide a true spark. And they've already started trading. And the name is Luis Robert Jr. Now, the White Sox are not going to be contending anytime soon. They are going to be able to sell him for a premium, even though he is not batting well so far this season. But he's coming off of a 264, 38 home run, 80 RBI season on a team that was absolute trash last year too. I'm just going to throw out there, if I'm the Reds, and the White Sox are already selling, and you want a guy who's still young enough that you could build around him more, because I don't know when his arbitration or anything goes. It looks like he's got $20 million for team options starting in 2026 and 2027. So you could get him for this year and the next few years, and he still may not be your highest paid player. And even if he is, whatever, because he's generally a very good player, and you need another right-handed bat, this is the guy I would go out and get. He's the first guy that came to mind. They need pitching bad. They need hitting bad. Dude, go out and trade Cam Collier, trade Connor Phillips, and something else, and go get Luis Robert Jr. You put him in the middle of this lineup right now, and I guarantee you they will play better. Guarantee it. If they go make that move today, I promise you we will have a better chance to win against the Diamondbacks and the Dodgers. That's the move I would make.
I love the move. I would love doing it, especially because it seems like Connor Phillips is having his issues in the minors right now. More with just control and stuff like that. And
we don't
Cam Collier, like, he's a good prospect, but if you can get good players in a trade, that's great. I'm glad you're more forward thinking than I am, because all I do is just kind of sit back and regret like Eddie Martinez for the Mets is hitting 265 right now. Like, he'd be the best hitter on our team, and that's saying something. But a veteran bat that could have added that to our team would have been great. So whatever you have to do, that's a good way to spark the lineup is get someone like that, in the lineup and trying to help the hitting. But yeah, it gets to the point these next couple of weeks. I think we're going to find out if we're buyers at the deadline or sellers. And the way things are looking, it looks like we're going to be sellers. Whatever value we have left, I don't know, but we're not going to give up the young guys, so it doesn't matter. We're not going to get much back for them anyway.
Well, why not just sell these guys? Like who cares? Cam Collier's not coming up anytime soon. You have way too many starting pitchers right now. This is the kind of move I'd make regardless of if we think we're buyers or sellers. He is available. The White Sox have literally stated that they're basically just trading everything at this point. They are full fire sale. They just traded Robbie Grossman, who I know is a very different player than Robert. But if the Reds can go out and just blow the White Sox ownership away, which they are very easily, I don't want to call them manipulated. They're very easily deceived, I think, because they have been pretty bad, even worse than our front office for a very long time. I think you could even get away with probably a package that people would be like, wow, I can't believe that they just gave away only that to get Luis Robert. Look, I'm gonna put it out there. I really think that a guy like this type of a bat is what the Reds need. Yes, he is still a higher strikeout guy. I understand that. 172 strikeouts to 30 walks. So he absolutely has the opportunity to just completely let us down and be a very holy crap, we just have another one of these bats in our lineup. But at the same time, these are the kinds of bats that you kind of want. And he's at least proven it. He's done it before. He's a solid hitter. I mean, I guess you could technically go get Eloy Jimenez, but I don't really like him as much. He's a much more contact guy. So maybe actually I would take him too. I think he would come in at a lesser price. But yeah, I'd take him too. Either one of those two. I don't give a shit. One of the two. They're both decent hitters. One actually can play the outfield. The other's more of a designated hitter than he is an outfielder. But I don't care. They are selling. You should go buy. That's all I'm going to say on that one. I think that they should go look. This team has the ability to be great. They really do. But they've got to go find some way to get a spark in. And like you said, I've seen this as well. If you go in and you go buy a player, you're going to help. Because, guys, I hate to be this guy, but we are currently only 5 games up on the Chicago White Sox. Let me put it that way. That is bad. That's really not good. So everybody's like, oh, let's go play the White Sox again. We are becoming them very quickly if we do not make something happen. So my idea was spark it. You got a ton of prospects. You might as well go grab something because most of these young guys aren't going anywhere anytime soon anyways. So
I'm a little hesitant to give up prospects right now because I do think our depth as an organization is not as good as you'd want it to be. And that's because we brought up all these young guys, right? We brought up all these young guys the last couple of years. But if you can trade for a player with some control for the next several years, that's definitely something that you consider. That's the only way I think you do trade at the deadline. Otherwise, I don't know what you're doing. We've seen teams do weird strategies too. Like the Braves ended up buying at the deadline when they won the World Series, and everyone was like, you have so many injuries, why are you doing this? And they ended up winning the World Series. I'm not saying that can happen with this Reds team because we don't have enough firepower, and that's tough to do. But you're right. If you do make a trade, make sure it's someone who has controllable years that can help with this team into the future. I'm not opposed to doing it in that situation, but I'm hesitant to do it with the prospects because I'm excited to build the organization back up right now. If we show signs of life and we get back closer to 500, then yeah, let's go trade some of the younger assets for players.
Well, we'll see. I will say Eloy Jimenez also is under team options for about the same amount of money for 25 and 26. So it'd be one less year. And they're the only ones I brought up just because it's them and the Marlins, and the Marlins aren't necessarily a good hitting team. So I'm not too interested necessarily in their pieces. I guess you could technically go get Ellie De La Cruz's brother or cousin, Brian De La Cruz, but maybe that would really only just help him, and he's already been good. So,
well, they already traded Arias too. They traded one of the
Arias would have been a great guy to have on this team.
The Padres got him for pennies on the dollar too. It seemed like so. I'm unfortunate, but that's how it works.
Oh, that would have been really nice for this team. Can you imagine? A guy who actually gets on base on a regular basis? Holy moly. All right. We're going to move on here. I think the hitting has been better, Joe. I don't know if we need to dive into this too much. I will give credit here. It's been nice seeing Candy hit. Seems like he's getting his arms extended more. His swing looks better. To be honest with you, he looks a lot more confident. This team has actually, I think, been in all the games this week almost solely because of him and Ellie and Steer. So, with some help from Indy and Stevenson. So, I think their hitting is starting to turn around. I think it was just a bad combination this week of not bad starting pitching, but not great like we had the weeks before. But the hitting is starting to come around. I really hope that it is really coming around for this week because they are going to need it. Is there anything you want to say before we dive into our preview of what'll be a really, really rough next 2 weeks?
No, I think Candy deserves some credit for turning it on a little bit. Looks like his swing's a little bit smoother. It still doesn't look great. Jonathan India as well. Looking for other people to step it up here too. Like, I think John Sadak made a comment like Tyler Stevenson is the most clutch hitter we have right now on the team, and it's like, yeah, but he's hitting 213, so he's hitting sometimes when we need him, but a lot of times when not. We need guys like him to step it up. We need more guys who. We need to get more people, above the Mendoza line, which is a sad state of affairs. But it has gotten better, so we'll see. We'll see if they can do something this week. It's just gonna be a hard matchup to do it against.
Yeah, let's get into that. We get to see the Diamondbacks again and be done with them. Thank God for the rest of this season. We're gonna have similar matchups as we had last week. Weirdly enough, the better 2 games matchups. So take that for what it's worth. It'll be Graham Ashcraft versus Jordan Montgomery. Hunter Green versus Ciccone. Is that right? Did I get it right this time? Do you remember?
I believe so. But based on I think they said Ciccone on the.
I feel like that's what I heard too. But I just want to make sure. We'll see. Sorry, Ciccone, if you're out there listening. I don't know why you would be, but I appreciate it. Then we have Andrew Abbott versus Brandon Pfaadt. Is that right? Pfaadt? I don't know. Mm-hmm. I always mess that one up too. Who has been solid as well. Closer Paul Sewald did come back in our series, so he is back. That does help them quite a bit, actually. He's a pretty solid closer. Lineup is generally going to be the same. Jake McCarthy, Lourdes Gurriel Jr., Ketel Marte, Christian Walker, Jock Peterson, Eugenio Suarez, Corbin Carroll, Blaze Anderson, and Gabriel Moreno, with Kevin Newman, Tucker Barnhart, Randall Grichuk, and Pavin Smith. Joe, where are you at with this series?
I broke it down last time, since it was just last week. I won't kind of reiterate too much other than watching for those big bats. It is a bigger ballpark, like we mentioned as well, but, the way our defense is, that's not necessarily a good thing that we keep balls in the park either. So that's something to watch out for. There's big power bats in the lineup. But this is a series where I think you absolutely have to win one game. Like,
have to.
No doubt. If you get swept by the Diamondbacks, like, it's about as close to over as you can be at this point of the season. They'd be 17-26, and you have to go to a 4-game series with the Dodgers. So that's what I'm looking for. Like, I don't care which game it is. We're playing bad. If we can win 2, if we can win 3, that's great. But you have to win 1. And hopefully that first game where we get Montgomery, who's still finding his way, it seems, that could be the one we win. Hopefully.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the biggest advantage that we have right now is their starting pitching in this series is not good. We are dodging Zach Gallen. Merrill Kelly is not there right now. This pitching staff is beatable. This pitching staff is very, very beatable. And our pitching staff has been good. I think I'm still going to pick 1-2, but I was leaning potentially at a 2-1 because our bats have finally started to pick it up. That's the only thing I will say. I think there's a world where we really could go in there and win 2 games. I really do. I don't think it's likely right now. That's why I'm going to pick 1 and 2. But I will say this. Graham Ashcraft versus Montgomery went the way of Ashcraft for the most part. I would take that one. Hunter Green wasn't even on, and he still almost beat Ciccone. I think that's an okay one as well, unless if he's actually hurt. Then I may cry. And then Andrew Abbott and Brandon Pfaadt, like, Andrew Abbott has consistently given up 2, maybe 3 runs. His biggest problem has been solo home runs. This is a park that does not give up a ton of home runs. So That could be a huge advantage for him, to be completely honest with you. And Fat has given up, 24 runs this year in 47 innings. So not been great. The batting average against is 258, which is relatively high. Like, I think there's a world where they can really turn it around in this series, or at least win. If they somehow can come out of this 2-1, I'm going to be jumping for joy. That'd be huge. That'd be so massive for this Reds team. I don't know if that's going to be the case. So I'm going to pick one win, but I really think, oh man, if they could somehow walk out 19-24, I think I'm going to be really pumped. I really am.
Yeah, as you should be. I'm going 1-2 as well. Your logic isn't wrong in thinking they could be 2-1, and if you picked it, I wouldn't have a huge issue with it. Just there's not a lot of faith here from me for the Reds right now. So 1-2. Again, if it was like a worse team, maybe, or if it wasn't on the road, or if our bats were doing a little bit more, or if our defense was a little bit better, I could maybe pick that more easily. But yeah, you'd love to walk away with 2 or 3 wins in the series. It's just right now it looks like it's going to be 1.
That Sunday Giants game is a backbreaker. If they could have won that game, I think we would be feeling a lot different about this team right now, or not a lot, but at least enough to going into this series. I think I'd feel a lot better. Then we get the Dodgers for 4 in LA, because why not? I want to remind everybody too, before we dive too much deeper into this Dodgers series, that we are going to see them again. We get the Padres for 3 and the Dodgers for 3. This 13-game stretch could not be worse for where we are at right now. Truly. We finally get a break against the Cardinals and the Cubs and the Rockies. And then the Cubs again, and then the Guardians. Look, I'm just going to tell you, I'll give you the matchups here real quick. I'm just going to tell you got to find a way to win one in LA too. I don't care how you do it. Just got to make it happen. But you got Nick Lodolo versus Walker Buehler, who has been really struggling to start out this season. You got Frankie Montas versus Gavin Stone, who's been a nice little addition for them. Not been great, not been bad. Been pretty solid, though, overall. Graham Ashcraft versus Yoshinobu Yamamoto, the big signing as well with Ohtani, because the Dodgers just have unlimited money. And then you got Hunter Green versus either James Paxton or Tyler Glasnow. I don't know if one of them went down with an injury and I missed it or something, but they had a question mark there. I was looking at the pitching staff, by the way, for this Dodgers team, and they have as many good pitchers on their IL as most teams have in general. So pretty wild to think about. I mean, we're not even going to see people like Kershaw, Devin May, I think is his name, or something May. He was really good for them a couple years ago too. Dustin May. That's the word.
I think it's Dustin. Yeah.
Dustin May. And again, I mean, the fact that Walker Buehler's been their worst, and they don't even have Ohtani either. He's not even listed as a starting pitcher, I don't think, on their freaking depth chart. So, it's just like, I hate this team so much. People complained about the Yankees in the past. I think the Dodgers are as bad or more egregious, to be honest with you, with the way they did the Ohtani contract, especially. I think is really, really crap. But they also have Evan Phillips. Sorry, I'll stop complaining. Evan Phillips, who I think is a pretty solid reliever. He has been the last few years. He's 8 for 8 in his saves. Lineup. Oh, wait, you thought their starting pitching was good. You got Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani, Freddie Freeman, Will Smith, Max Muncy, Teoscar Hernandez, Andy Padges, Gavin Lux, James Outman, with backups of Kike Hernandez, Miguel Rojas, Austin Barnes, and Chris Taylor. Look, this team is stacked, Joe. We know it. Everybody knows it. They still do lose games. They're not perfect. But having a 4-game series, like, if somehow the Reds win 2-2 in this series, I think we might be popping champagne on the next episode of this, honestly. I don't know. We wouldn't actually probably, but I think we'd be celebrating that this team battled the way that they did. If by some weird miracle this team goes 4-3 on this road trip, I may cry tears of joy. Let's just put it that way. I forgot that it was a 4-game series. I was going to pick 0-3, to be honest with you, Joe. I'm going to pick 1-3. I think they're going to find a way to win a game. It happens. Even the worst teams in baseball beat the best teams in baseball. I'm not saying we're the worst team in baseball. The Dodgers might be the best team in baseball, but I just think we will find, we'll run into an accident day where Yamamoto forgets how to throw his fastball correctly and just keeps throwing it down the middle and our guys hit the crap out of it. I don't know. The baseball's a weird game. Watch them go in and sweep the Dodgers too. That'd be absolutely hysterical, honestly, at this point. It's happened in the past. I mean, they did it last year. That Dodgers series is what got them started when we swept them at home. Ellie did the cycle, I believe, in that series as well. Was it not the Dodgers series? Braves series. That's right.
Braves.
That's right. No, he had his first home run, I think, in the Dodgers series. I think that's what it was. But that was against Thor, if I remember correctly. So very different type of pitcher than what they have now. But you get my point, Joe. I'm gonna go with 1-3. I'm just getting my prediction out of the way, but I'm sure you know where we're at with this one.
Yeah, you said it best. They need to win one game in this series as well. Now, if they want to win 2 or 3 and against the Diamondbacks and then they falter against the Dodgers, no harm, no foul. But if we're predicting 1 win against the Diamondbacks, you have to win 1 game against the Dodgers. Mm-hmm. Keys to this series, there are not many holes in this lineup. I think the key is to get through the first 6 hitters as best you can. We have a .339 batting Mookie Betts, a .352 batting Shohei Ohtani. Teoscar Hernandez has 11 home runs, who's tied with Shohei Ohtani, who has 11. Freddie Freeman, 301. We have Will Smith, 306. And Max Muncy, who's low on average, but has 9 home runs already. Wow. I don't know how you're supposed to do that, but get through those top 6 guys. And I read that out of order because I'm looking at stats too, so that's not the order it's going to be in. But those 6 guys overall, get through them. And even the bottom of the order is good. They have averages that we would kill for right now.
Yep.
But at least you avoid the long ball. You avoid the big bats in their lineup. This is a loaded team for good reason. They spend the money. As you said, it's frustrating to be a fan who watches them play, who's not a fan of them, but a fan of another team. Man, this is going to be a tough series. I'm going 1-3. They might be able to luck into a win. Maybe we get Ellie to doing something kind of crazy. But on paper, this is a very, very rough series for the Reds. Even if they were at full strength, it might be one that you're picking 1-3, and that's what's scary about it.
Yeah, it's a pretty terrifying time, guys. I mean, there's a real world where we lose all 13 of these games and it's over. Like, it's actually just done at that point, because then we're like 18 games under, I think, and there's just no chance. Now, we're not going to. Baseball is not that way. That'd be pretty unreal bad. I mean, like, that'd be like historical levels of bad, I think, for this team, to be honest with you. But, right. And they can surprise. I will put that out there. They have done this before where you just are like, my God, this series is just going to be rough. And the next thing you know, they just find their confidence. They win game 1 and they're just like, okay, like, we're starting to feel better. Let's figure this thing out. I just worry they're coming off that Giants series where they just gave up the walk-off hit yesterday to a guy, again, who was just absolute trash on an 0-2 count nonetheless, which makes that even more frustrating, to be honest with you. We'll see. We'll see. So, I'm not very hopeful, but it could happen. I mean, it really could. This could be where they like band together. They go in and have like a players only meeting, and they just say, hey guys, like, it's time for us to step up because otherwise this season is over. I want to see somebody like India do it. I don't care who it is. Somebody needs to step up in this locker room and light a fire under these guys. If it's Jake Fraley's dad, I don't give a shit. Somebody do it.
So, Cincinnati fan in me thinks they're going to like win 2 to 3 games this week just to keep our hopes up. Like, oh, they didn't do so bad, and like we'll string them along. We'll string the Reds fans along.
Oh yeah,
and because we'll be sitting here like, hey, it wasn't that bad of a week. Maybe they put something together, and that's what sucks. It's kind of predictable in that way. But I don't even know. Even 3 games this week will be tough. So best of luck to the Reds. Hopefully they win. They can win all 7 and prove us wrong. Go on a streak because they are a streaky team, and if you're a streaky team, every bad streak has to come with a good streak at some point, hopefully. But it doesn't look good. A lot of late night games, if Reds fans decide to not even watch, I don't blame you. I will be watching a lot of them because there's nothing else to do that late at night for me. But man, it's going to be a rough watch, probably.
Yeah, it's going to be a rough week, guys. We're anticipating it. We hope we're wrong, but let us know as always in the comments below if you think we're just absolutely completely wrong one way or the other. If you're, on the 07 side of things or the 7-0 side of things, we'll see what happens. But if you are religious, say your prayers. If you're not and you like lucky rabbit's feet or certain stones, or maybe you're an astrology person and you hope that the stars are aligning for the Reds, whatever energy you are able to give this team, they need it right now in the worst sort of way. So we really do appreciate all of you who are watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe. We're going to keep doing this regardless of how bad they are. It may just become a show of us just crying basically on every single episode, but we're here regardless, and we hope you guys will be too. So with that, guys, good luck, Reds, and we'll catch you on the next one.